Okay. Quality audience, please. Let me come here. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mrs. Sice. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everyone in the classrooms and at home. Welcome to Friday's assembly, and this assembly is the last one to support our changeability and our signal change. And we've been looking at changeability over the last 3 weeks. Has anyone got a certificate been awarded for changeability? Oh, stand up for me, Flowers. Okay, big loud voice. Even though they can't see you, they can hear you. So, Lyra, tell me about your change ability.
I've been really good in the past couple of weeks, and I've been focusing on running around and I've been working really well on maths.
Excellent. So you've had a change of attitude to your learning, and that has been recognised. Was it a difficult change to do?
No, I just started working.
And how does it make you feel that you're being recognised? Good, excellent. Riley?
How I got changed ability was I changed my behaviour and towards maths lessons.
And what made you want to do that change? Sorry, Lola, she can smell your dog. Sim, could you? Yeah, thank you. Sorry, Riley.
Shall I take it down to the...
Can do.
It was sort of like how I can fix it now and how I misbehave it, and she's dealing with my behaviour and other people with that all at the same time, so I thought I'll make changes.
So you recognise the impact not just on you but on others and your teacher too, and you wanted to make that change. That's a really mature approach and really reflective. Well done. Reese?
Like before Christmas, like I'm getting distracted and like not really focusing on my work, like not doing my best, but when I came back, like I've been focusing and like helping people.
And again, what made you want to make that change?
Just because there was not a lot of people in school and it just like made a difference.
Okay, so distraction and everything else. Thank you very much for sharing, Year 6. Sit down. Year 6, at home and in the classroom, it would be really lovely if more of you could get your changeability sticker with some advice that you've heard from the Year 6s and over the assemblies the last few weeks. Change, as I have said, is the one thing that is certain. Things change. And we can't stop change happening. And how we embrace that change or make that change is really important. And sometimes it makes that we've got to be resilient and strong and flexible and adapt and all those things. But making a personal change is the hardest thing sometimes. And on Monday, through Signal Change, I talked about a story about that nobody hugs a cactus. And I asked people at home and in their classrooms to talk about how could the cactus change to get somebody to hug them, because hugging a cactus is not going to be a pleasant experience because of all his prickles. So before I tell you the story, has anyone got any ideas how the cactus could change to initiate a hug from somebody, which is not easy? Could wear some clothes. Excellent, that's a good idea. Take off all the prickles, change his prickles, yep. So it's about changing those prickles, isn't it? Because those prickles are the things that really hurt. Lara? Yeah, that's a really good idea. So protect the prickles so that you don't get prickled as well. Well, do you know, it is about changing those prickles, isn't it? And in the story, you'll see what happens to the cactus. So, Hank was a cactus that sat on a windowsill. And he sat on a windowsill overlooking his garden that was pretty much a desert, because cactuses like to live in hot places. And so he looked over his desert garden and he enjoyed the peace and quiet that it brought. He liked to be on his own. He liked sitting on his windowsill, on his own, overlooking his desert garden, and the peace and quiet was what he enjoyed most. Betty, the tumbleweed, tumbled into his garden. "Get out my garden. I don't want you here. You're ruining my peace. I like to be on my own." Betty looked at him. "I was only coming to say hello." "That's all right. I only wanted to say hello. But I'll go. If you don't want me here, I will go. But it was nice to see you. Maybe I'll see you again." "Just leave," said Hank. "I like the peace and quiet." So Betty the tumbleweed left. Next to visit the garden was a tortoise. And as he walked into the garden to come to say hello to Hank the cactus, Hank, "No, stop there, don't come any further. I don't want you in my garden, I like the peace and quiet." Well, this frightened the tortoise so much that it hid in its shell. "I wish all these people and things would leave me alone. I'm quite happy here on my windowsill, looking out onto my desert garden, peace and quiet." Well, next, a fox came into his garden. The fox came sniffing up and around and looked up and went, "Hello, Hank." "Oh, what do you want? I don't want you here. I'm all right on my own. Just leave me alone," said Fox. "You're a bit prickly today, aren't you? Or are you prickly every day?" "Ugh, yes, I'm prickly every day." Next to come in the garden was a cowboy who was just riding past on his horse. Went through the garden and put his hand up. Hank looked at him and went, "Oh, what do you want now?" And the cowboy looked over and went, "You're prickly on the outside and you're prickly on the inside. What you really need is a hug." Hank thought about this one morning. "I don't need a hug. I don't need a hug. I really don't need a hug. I might be prickly on the outside and prickly on the inside, but I definitely don't need a hug." And the cowboy went on his way. But the cowboy had planted a thought. Hug. Why would I need a hug? I don't need a hug from anyone. I'm absolutely fine, perfectly fine here. Next came a butterfly. And before even the butterfly could land on one of Hank's prickles, "Don't even think about giving me a hug. I don't want a hug." And the butterfly flew away. That night, an owl came to roost on top of the roof. And he looked up at the owl, and he said to the owl, "Would you like a hug?" And the owl looked at him and went, "No, you're too prickly on the outside and too prickly on the inside." The hug was absolutely thought, what have I done? I've pushed so many people away that they are afraid of me, they don't want to be friends with me. I need to change. How can I make that change? And he thought long and hard. Well, as you know, cactuses don't do very much except sit or grow with prickles on the outside. But they do produce the most beautiful flowers. Anyway, I know what I'll do. I will grow the most beautiful flower, and when Betty, the tumbleweed, comes past, I will be able to give her a flower. And that's what he did. Over the next few days, he grew the most beautiful flower. But nobody came along. He held on to that flower, knowing that if he gave it to Betty, Betty may forgive him and become a friend. Just that, a sandstorm whipped up, and a cup came and stuck on one of his spikes, where his arms were too short to get the cup off, and so it was stuck on his head. Oh, that's really uncomfortable, and I can't do anything. Betty then tumbled in. Because it was a bit of a sandstorm, she was blown in on the wind. "Hello, Hank. Oh, let me take that off your head." And she did. She took the cup off the head, and Hank turned to her and said, "Thank you, Betty. That was really, really lovely. Betty, I've made something for you." And with that, he gave her his flower. Betty was so excited that without thinking, she jumped up and she hugged Hank with all her might. Hug felt really good. Hank felt really good. Just by changing and showing a little kindness, he had managed to feel a hug that filled his body with love and joy. However, because of his prickles, and Betty was a tumbleweed, she was then stuck there, and that's where she remained. Betty and Hank hugging each other on the windowsill. So a cactus can be hugged with a little bit of thought, love, and some great ideas for marshmallows. That's a really good idea. So, the lesson or the tale of the story is that we can all change. We can all make that change. And sometimes it's really hard to recognize something in us that we may not like. And being able to recognize what's inside us that we don't like, and then making that change, is an amazing step, but it's not an easy step. I want you just to take a moment, and I want maybe you to reflect on something about you that you may not like about you so much. And then I also want you to think about, what would it feel like if I changed that? And I changed it to the opposite, and it made me feel good, and it made others feel good. And we've heard some of those changes, haven't we? Riley has said today that he recognised how his behaviour was impacting on Mrs. Dyer, and he wanted to make that change. Lyra recognised how her choices were impacting on her learning, and she wanted to make that change. Reese recognised that he didn't like not concentrating, and he put all his effort in to concentrate. Change happens, but sometimes we've got to be in control of that change too. See you later.